Hi guys, and welcome to today's video where we will be discussing how to keep your gecko's tank warm in the winter, mainly looking at how to raise that air temperature if it does get quite low. Now first we must look at the position of your tank. It's important that it's not near a draft or in direct sunlight or next to an external heat source such as a radiator. All of these can have immediate negative effects on your gecko, its tank, and the overall temperature. The other thing we can look at is the type of tank you use. I don't really know if this is definitely true, I may have read it somewhere, but I have heard wooden vivariums retain heat better than glass terrariums, and generally I don't have too much of an issue with the air temperatures in my tanks in winter with my leopard geckos, but of course with my Chihuahua and Crested Gecko I like to add a heat source to help them out. One kind of obvious thing you can do during autumn and winter is turn up your central heating if you have it. So if you have a radiator in your room, for example, it has a thermostat so you can be precise when setting it, then go for it. And don't raise it like to 30 or 32 degrees. It doesn't have to mimic a heat mat because you'll probably be too hot. Your geckos will almost certainly probably die, especially crested geckos. It will be terrible. So when setting this, only set it to an ideal room temperature, a temperature where you are also comfortable in it. It does not have to be super hot. If you want, do it in like the 70 degrees Fahrenheit. Oh, and by the way, in this video, I'll flip from Celsius to Fahrenheit. I'll try to make it obvious, but it's a problem I have. Anyway, so turn up that radiator a little if you can, but be careful. I do remember watching a video of a guy, he left his apartment, I think the thermostat stopped working, the heating shot up, and sadly he lost most of his geckos, which is just devastating. The other options are more reptile safe, and if used with the correct equipment, can be set specifically for each animal, though this option can be kind of costly if you have more than one reptile. This option is to use either a ceramic heater, deep heat projector, or even a heat map on the roof. Okay, I've started seeing these in shops, especially used with snakes, and they can be literally mounted on the side or the roof of the tank, but they are specifically designed for that. I don't think they're the exact same as the ones we usually have on the floor. I don't know. I haven't really looked into it, but I have seen this as an option. Maybe you want to look into it a bit more, and I think these would be better suited in like a wooden vivarium or a tank with a proper roof. Now with any external heat source, it is incredibly important to use the correct type of thermostat with it. You cannot simply get a ceramic heater, for example, and pop it in the tank. I mean, you can, but your gecko would frazzle. Because, for example, this ceramic heater, if you just turn it on, it shoots up to 60 degrees Celsius. Okay, I don't know what kind of reptile needs 60 degrees, but it gets there. So, make sure you use a thermostat. I believe a pulse thermostat is best for non-visual heat sources, but this may differ from lamp to lamp, so always do your research. If you are using a heat mat on the roof, I don't know if it's the same as heat mats on the floor, because I would usually use a Habitat Matstat for my normal heat mats, but I would use, say, a pulse thermostat for a ceramic heater or something like that. If you do choose to use a ceramic heater or deep heat projector, make sure you have the correct fitting for it. If it's mounted inside a vivarium and there's a chance your gecko can reach it, make sure you have a protective cover over it. On top of terrariums, I just use a fitting like this. Now, I have discussed the differences between a ceramic heater and deep heat projector in a video before, so I will link to that. But to me, the deep heat projector offers far more in terms of actually energizing your animals, as well as heating the air. And it's a similar price to most ceramic heaters, so to me it's just a win-win, but it is really up to you. Now, you may be wondering about heat lamps or colored lamps. The thing is, your gecko does need darkness. You can't keep a light on all night, and night is generally the coldest, so the visual heat lamps will be no good. Coloured lights aren't good either, but if they're under 4 lux, you can kind of get away with using it throughout the night, but that's why you should do lots of research before buying a specific lamp. Look at all the information you can, but to me, a ceramic heater or deep heat projector are probably the best two options. So all in all, if I had to heat up my tanks a little in the winter, I'd probably go for the deep heat projector. I currently use that with Lyra and will probably buy one for Drogo as it gets cooler. Honestly, this thing is awesome. I really do feel we probably don't heat our New Caledonian geckos as much as we should, and that might be why growth is stunted or they have appetite problems. I think for them you would set it at 23 to 24 degrees, so around 75 degrees Fahrenheit. That would be fine for like crested geckos, gargles, chihuahuas and leeches. For a leopard gecko, obviously they have their heat map, which should be set at about 30 to 32 degrees Celsius. But for air temperature, we could raise it to a similar temperature as the crested geckos. So it's generally thought that if the cold hide is around room temperature, so around like the 70s, that should be fine. And always remember to keep that heat gradient in your tank, so one side is the hotter side, one side is the cooler side, so your gecko can choose to heat up or cool down. So I hope that helps you out and keeps your gecko a little warm in the winter. Remember, they do go into partial brumation sometimes, and I have a whole video on that. It is a little old now, but the info is still relevant. But I hope it helps and prepares you and your gecko for this autumn and winter. So thank you for watching, guys. If you haven't already, please subscribe. It really does mean a lot. I hope you've enjoyed today's video. Thank you and goodbye.